Have you found that today it can be challenging to discern whether the articles you are reading were authored by a person or a machine? Or have you witnessed how social media seems equipped to present to you subjects that you are interested in prior to realizing you are interested in them? This is certainly not an accident. It is artificial intelligence influencing our views and impacting the context of the information we see, believe, and trust. So here's the big question: does it even matter if language is generated by a machine or a person in mass communication? At face value, this certainly seems efficient. AI can develop a news article in seconds, or summarize a research article quickly, or translate a person's speech instantly for audiences in a dozen languages. However, the issues of bias, misinformation, and control linger just beneath the surface. Who decides which information receives the most coverage, and which is left to fall by the wayside? In this lecture, we will explore exactly that, the role of artificial intelligence in mass communication. We will look at how AI is transforming journalism, social media, and public opinion. We will break down the ethical issues, from fake news to deepfakes. And most importantly, we will think about what this means for students, researchers, and for anyone who cares about truth in a digital age. So, let's start by looking at where all this began, the foundations of mass communication theory, and then we will see how AI has entered the picture. To understand the current status of AI in mass communication, let's take a step back. Before the advent of algorithms and chatbots, academically, questions were already being asked about how media impacts people on a large scale. 3 issues are especially notable: agenda setting, framing, and uses and gratifications. First, agenda setting theory. In the 1970s, 2 researchers, Maxwell McCombs and Donald Shaw, noticed something intriguing during a US presidential election. The media was not so much instructing people on what to think, based on the media coverage, but rather on what they should think about. If the media continues to report on crime, for instance, a person may believe that crime is the biggest issue, even if the statistics do not support that claim. This phenomenon is called agenda setting. The media determines which issues are most worthy of attention. The next is framing theory. This represents a more substantial step from agenda setting theory. It is not only what stories are promoted, but also how those stories are framed for the audience. Let's consider a hypothetical example of the same protest. One headline reads, "Citizens rally for justice," while another headline reads, "Rioters upset city." The first headline represents a positive interpretation of the protest, while the second headline represents a negative one. The protest and context are the same, but how the media frames that headline is the key to understanding the 2 opposing interpretations. Framing is the media framing a narrative, or the lens through which we ironically view the world. Finally, we arrive at uses and gratifications theory. Instead of examining what the media does to us, uses and gratifications theory examines what we do with the media. Do we engage with media for information? For entertainment? For dependency? For social connection? Or maybe we use media even to escape from our daily stress? This theory informs us audience members are not just passive sponges. They make decisions around their media use. Now, why does all this matter for AI? Because, today, AI is taking on these same roles, deciding what issues we see, framing how stories appear, and even predicting the content we will use based on our habits. Except that now, it's not just human editors and journalists making those choices, it's algorithms. And algorithms do not sleep, they work 24/7, curating what billions of people see across the world. So, with that foundation in place, let's move forward and explore how AI is being used in mass communication today. AI in mass communication today. Artificial intelligence is no longer something of a distant future, rather, it is a well-established, ubiquitous, and a fundamental aspect of the modern communicative condition. To break this down, we will discuss AI in the context of 3 areas: journalism, social media, and content generation. First, regarding AI in journalism, newsrooms around the globe have begun to employ AI to create news articles. For example, The Washington Post has created a model called Aliograph that generates accounts of news events, particularly those related to sports scores and election updates, largely with little input from any reporter. Reuters and the Associated Press are undertaking similar work. Automated journalism programs can generate hundreds, if not thousands, of articles in the time it would take a journalist to write a single article. On one hand, this can lead to faster reporting and more news coverage, while on the other hand, it can raise serious concerns. Who checks for bias in computer-written news? Who fact-checks? Now, we'll consider AI within the social media landscape. Have you ever wondered why your TikTok, YouTube, or Instagram feed seems perfectly tailored to you? That's AI operating behind the scenes. Algorithms are constantly monitoring your clicks, watch times, and interactions. This type of predictive analytics is called agenda setting. However, what we're discussing is agenda setting on an individual level. AI is creating your agenda. Rather than an editor presenting the front page of a newspaper, you have an algorithm presenting the front page specifically for you. And while this may seem appealing, it also creates echo chambers where you only see content that reinforces ideas you already have. Finally, we'll examine AI in content creation. IT's not just newsrooms, but also everyday people are now utilizing AI resources, such as ChatGPT and Midjourney, to create scripts, images, and entire videos. This democratizes content creation, where anyone can now be considered a media creator. But it also generates a saturation of online content that makes it even more difficult to distinguish fact from fiction and truth from misinformation. So, what should we take away from this? AI is not just another tool for use in mass communication. It is an actor that produces, distributes, and most importantly shapes beliefs. This leads to the next huge concern: ethics. Once algorithms write, recommend, and disseminate content at lightning speed, the risk continues to increase. Misinformation spreads faster, deepfakes appear more realistic, and privacy becomes exponentially tougher to safeguard. Ethical concerns in AI and mass communication. When we discuss artificial intelligence in communication, it is easy to focus only on the positive elements: the speed, the efficiency, and the personalization. However, to be 100% frank, the ethical issues are just as important, if not more so. We will now take a look at the four biggest issues: bias, misinformation, deepfakes, and privacy. Let's start with bias in AI. Here's the thing. Algorithms are only as fair as the data they are trained on. If the training data contains stereotypes or prejudices, the AI will learn and repeat them. Research also shows that AI systems used to screen applications or identify images tend to discriminate against women and people of color. Now, think about those same issues in mass communication contexts. If an AI system is curating the trending stories on social media or the headlines that first appear in search engines, bias in the training and application of the AI system may literally alter public opinion without anyone realizing it. Second, misinformation. AI makes it easier than ever to spread fake news. A few years ago, creating a convincing fake article or fake video required skill. Now, with AI tools, anyone can do it in minutes. Worse, misinformation spreads faster than corrections. In mass communication terms, this means AI doesn't just speed up the flow of information, it also accelerates the spread of lies. And once false information goes viral, it can shape public opinion in lasting ways, even if the truth comes out later. Third, the use of deepfakes. This application of AI in the media is one of the most concerning issues. Deepfakes use AI to create hyper-realistic, but completely fake, audio and video. Imagine a political leader saying something they never actually said, or a journalist reporting on something that never happened. These fakes are becoming so convincing that even experts struggle to tell the difference. The danger is not only deception, but also the destruction of trust. If we can no longer trust our senses, our eyes and ears, then the entire foundation of mass communication, the notion of credibility, begins to collapse. And lastly, privacy and surveillance. AI depends on data. The more AI knows about you or a person's search history, location, online habits, and so on, the better it can predict your behavior. But this comes with a cost. Social media companies and advertisers are collecting massive amounts of personal data, and in some cases, governments are relying on AI-fueled surveillance to monitor their citizens. In media and communications, this raises an urgent question: when do we cross the line between personalized content and outright manipulation? So, when we combine all these concerns, we get a paradox. AI promises smarter, faster, more personalized communication, but at the same time, it threatens fairness, truth, trust, and privacy. And the stakes aren't just academic. These issues directly affect how societies function and how democracies survive. And that brings us to our next section, how AI-driven communication is shaping public opinion and democracy itself. Impact on public opinion and democracy. One thing we know for certain about mass communication is that the media does not only reflect reality, it shapes it. Now, with the advent of AI in operation, the issues of the media shaping public opinion are even more serious. Let's look at 3 critical areas in which AI is changing how public opinion is shaped: echo chambers, elections, and trust. First, echo chambers. Remember how agenda-setting theory tells us that the media tells us what to think about? AI has made this process an intensely personalized experience. Social media algorithms have learned your habits, even more so because of AI, and solely feed you more of what you already like. So, if you have a favorable disposition towards a particular political viewpoint, your feed will simply serve you more of that viewpoint, and you become more and more entrenched in those beliefs while growing disinclined to accept other viewpoints as well. Second, elections and political influence. Elections have often been a key area where mass communication has had the greatest significance. Historically, politicians relied on TV ads and media coverage, primarily from newspapers. Now, campaigns use AI-driven micro-targeting. This means that your online profile, including your age, interests, and browsing history, can determine the ads you see. For example, 2 neighbors may be scrolling through Instagram at the same time, and one gets an ad for tax cuts, while the other sees an ad for healthcare, with both ads targeted through AI-led predictions. Unfortunately, this type of targeting has been used unethically in some instances, such as the Cambridge Analytica controversy. In this case, data was harvested without a user's knowledge or consent to sway voters in the elections. The scary part is that this has the potential to sway elections, while voters may not realize how much they are being influenced and how they are being swayed. Third, trust and credibility. This, perhaps, is the most fragile. In the past, people could at least trust the source, serious newspapers or respected local television anchor, even if they disagreed over an issue. Now, with fake news generated by AI, deepfakes, and the algorithmic amplification of bias, trust is now a fast-fading commodity. If people do not know what is real, they often default to one of 2 extremes: they either believe everything they see, or believe nothing at all. Both extremes are dangerous. Believing everything makes people vulnerable to manipulation, while believing nothing erodes democracy, as shared facts are what hold societies together. So, what's the bottom line here? AI isn't just shaping communication, it's shaping how people think, vote, and act. And that means it's shaping the very foundations of democracy. If communication is the lifeblood of society, then AI is like a new organ in that system, powerful, unpredictable, and still not fully understood. Which leads us to the next question: what does the future of media and AI look like, and how should students and researchers prepare for it? The future of media and AI. So, where does that leave us? With AI already writing news, shaping social media feeds, and shaping elections, what will the future mass communication look like? Let's discuss 3 directions: opportunity, challenge, and responsibility. First, opportunities. AI can do amazing things to advance media and communication. For example, imagine real-time language translation that makes global news instantly accessible to everyone. Think of AI-assisted tools that can help journalists analyze massive datasets in seconds, exposing corruption, climate change trends, and public health issues, all things that humans might not be able to compile alone. For educators and researchers, AI can summarize dense articles, generate discussion questions, or even turn complex theories into simple explanations. In other words, AI could make communication more inclusive and more efficient than ever before. Secondly, challenges. Any opportunity, however, carries a possible risk. We've seen how misinformation spreads like wildfire. In the future, this could get worse, with deepfakes so realistic that it will become impossible to distinguish truth from falsehood. Furthermore, if the most powerful AI tools are in the sole hands of big tech companies, communication may not be democratized, but rather a function of who owns the algorithms. This consolidation of power could influence billions of people in terms of what they see, think, and believe. Finally, responsibility. This is where students, researchers, and academics play a crucial role. AI in communication is not something that is happening out there. It's happening in classrooms, in universities, it's happening in research labs. The responsibility of the next generation of scholars is to ask the difficult questions: how do we achieve fairness? How do we strike a balance between innovation and ethics? How do we protect democracy in the digital age? The truth is, AI in mass communication isn't going away. It's only going to grow. The question is not whether we use it, but how we use it. And the answer to that depends on people like you, students, researchers, and citizens, who can demand transparency, accountability, and critical thinking in a world that is becoming more digital by the day. Which brings us to the final part of our lecture, a quick recap and the key takeaway you should leave with. Now let's take a moment to step back and connect the pieces. We began with a big question: what happens when artificial intelligence, AI, is integrated into mass communication? In the process, we have reviewed various communication theories, agenda setting, framing, and uses and gratifications, and seen how artificial intelligence is potentially engaging those same functions, just much faster and often more powerfully. We learned about how artificial intelligence impacts journalism, curates social media feeds, and generates an ever-increasing level of new content. We addressed the ethical challenges, including bias, misinformation, deepfakes, and privacy, and we considered what this means for public opinion, elections, and democracy itself. In conclusion, we then moved forward. Artificial intelligence, AI, in communication is not just a tool. It is a force. It presents amazing possibilities, but also serious responsibilities. So here it is, to summarize the discussion: AI will influence how societies think, communicate, and act. The question may be more accurately posed as, will we influence AI, or will AI influence us? For students and scholars, this means one thing: do not just use AI. Study it. Question it. Challenge it. Understand the theories behind AI, and demand ethical frameworks around it. Because communication has always been tied to power, and in the era of AI, that power is more pronounced than ever. Thank you for listening. You are welcome to subscribe if you are interested.